Welcome back to our Beatrice YouTube channel. In today's class, we're going to learn how to make this beautiful puffy tulip sleeve. It's a petal sleeve. You can see the interlocking that we have here, but it's going to have a little bit of puff on the shoulder, and then we're not going to have any seam on the underarm. So this is the underarm area, and you will see that there is no joining there. I'm going to take you through how to cut and sew this, and also how to introduce the volume to the hem so that it can be wider, just like what I have here. If this is something you like to learn, kindly stay tuned to the end of this tutorial. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to start by drafting our pattern. So to draft your pattern, you put your paper on fold like this, like you're cutting a full sleeve. Okay, so once you put it on fold, it's going to have a bit of puff. So for that, depending on how puffy you want it to be, you mark the allowance. So for me, I'm marking 3 inches before my actual sleeve starts. So this 3 inches is going to be for my puff. Okay, so from there now you mark your sleeve length. For me, I want the sleeve to be 8 inches long. So from here, I'm going to mark 8 inches for my sleeve, or you can just leave 8.5. I had 8.5 on this paper, so I'm just going to leave this as it is. So the next thing now is to mark your round armhole measurement. For me, that is 7 inches. Okay, 14 divided by 2, that's 7 inches. That's my round armhole measurement. This is not going to have a joining on the armhole area, so that is why I'm not putting any seam allowance. If you are going to be joining yours on the underarm, then you may consider adding your seam allowance to it. So now this is our actual sleeve. This is going to be for the puff, so we can just fold in that puff so that we can draft the sleeve. So this is what we have for our sleeve. So the next thing is to make sure your cap's height. For me, that is 3.5 inches for a small size, and then for a big size you can use 4 inches. So once you measure that, you connect it to the head of your sleeve like this, and then you draft your sleeve. So majorly it's going to be like a freehand, so I just need to know the midpoints of this sleeve. So the midpoint for me is here. So what I'm going to do now is to open this up and then find a way to connect from here all the way to this puff excess that I have. So if you have a curve that can do this for you, you can use your curve to do that. Okay, and if you don't have a curve, you can use your freehand. So I have done that. The next thing now is to connect this to my sleeve back. So as a guide, you can divide what you have here into 2, and then here you're going to come out by 1/2 inch. So now you're going to connect from here to here to here. So I'll take my ruler now and then find a way to connect those 3 points together. Okay, so once you connect, make sure that it is very smooth, just like I have it there. So once you connect it like that, you can go ahead and cut this off. Okay, remember that this sleeve is folded into 2. So this is what I'm going to have by the time I'm done. So once it is connected now, you can go ahead and open up your sleeve. So if you open up your sleeve, you will need to note the midpoint of the sleeve. That's the center point of your sleeve. I have a crease line here, but I'm going to use my marker to mark it so that you can all see what I am doing very well. So this is what we have by the time we are done. It's a tulip sleeve. It's going to be crossing over each other, so we just need to note how much you want it to cross. So at the midpoint here, I'm going to measure down around 7 to 8 inches. So I can do 7.5. So it means from where your actual sleeve starts, we measure down 4.5 inches. And then on the head of the sleeve here as well, I'm going to mark around 5 inches. Okay, you can do between 4 to 5 inches. So here I'm going to mark around 5 or 4.5. Okay, that's 4.5 inches. And then on the hem here, I'm going to come inwards by 1 or by 2 inches. Remember, there's no seam allowance here. Okay, so now this is the depth here where it's going to be crossing from my hem. I came in by 2 inches, and then here I marked 4.5 inches. So the next thing now is for me to connect everything together. So if you have a curve that can take everything all at once, you can use that. If you don't have it, you can do it in bits. So I'm just trying to see if this curve can do that for me, and if not, I will simply just connect from here to the midpoint first, and then from the midpoint I'm going to connect to the hem. So you can see and then from the midpoint now I'm going to find a way to connect it to the hem like this. Okay, so we have this. So we have successfully created a pattern for our tulip. So I'm going to go ahead now and cut out this pattern. So when I'm cutting here, I'm going to make it blend into what I have there. So this is what the pattern is. This part is very important, so when you transfer this on your fabric, make sure to note this part. So actually you can go ahead and cut this like this if that is what you want, and this is the underarm. Okay, so let me just label this as underarm. I'm labeling it because remember I said it's not going to have a joining there, so this part is going to be cut on fold. So now I'm going to be working with Ankara fabric for this, and this is fabric that I am working with. So for your main fabric for each sleeve, you're going to cut 2 of this, okay, and then for the lining as well, you're going to cut 2 of this. So like I said, you can work with it this way, but for me I want it to be a little big on the hemline. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. I just want the hemline to be a little bigger, so I'm just going to be introducing a little bit of slash and spread. You can see I'm just marking it at intervals, and then I'm going to cut it and then spread. So here, this is the part. My Ankara have two patterns, so I want the patterns to cross over each other. So this is the part that I'm going to be using for one side, and then this is the other side. So I want to cut the two together. I'm just folding the Ankara on each other like this. So once it is folded, I'm going to place it on my fabric. I remember that I said I don't want it to have joining here, so where it is intersecting here, you can see the fold point. That is where I'm going to be pinning this one too. So you make sure that this part is on fold. That is the only way you are not going to have a joining by the time you are done. So you can see how I folded it. I'm going to go ahead and slash this part open. I'm just going to spread it a little bit so that the hem of the sleeve is going to be a little bigger. Okay, so if you want yours to be really big, then you can spread as much as you want. So I'm going to pin this on fold to this part like this, and then I'm going to spread this. So I'm not going to spread so much. I can spread maybe 1 inch in between, or even half an inch, and then I'm going to go ahead and pin that as well. Okay, so you can see now the next thing is to cut it out. So you can add a little bit of allowance for turning to it, and then I'm going to just go ahead and connect them together and cut. So you can see how I am cutting this. I'm here now. I'm going to cut this as well. Let me just cut this out so that we have something smaller to work. So this is the armhole area, and then I'm going to go ahead and cut this part as well. So the armhole remains the same. The extra is just the extra puff that I added, nothing extra. So this is the center line. Like I said, this part is very important, so I'm just going to go ahead and place a notch there. It's important because that is where you're going to be crossing them on each other when you're done sewing. So now once you take out your pins and then you open it up, you can notch this part as your underarm area because it is not joined, so it's not going to be so easy. You can see what we have. You can see that we have a different pattern here and a different pattern here, and that place you notch as your center, which is here. This is where you're going to pin it. So it's just going to cross and overlap on each other, and then we're going to be sewing this. So you can see that it's bigger. So I want it to be structured, so for that I'm going to be cutting out. Okay, so this fabric I already have, I'm going to use it to cut out a crinoline mesh. You can see it is stiff, so it's going to make this stiff stronger. So I have done that already. I have cut out my crinoline mesh. This is the wrong side of my fabric, so I'm just going to pin the mesh on it like this. Okay, I'm going to place the mesh on it, and then I'm going to pin it down. So you are going to also use this to cut out a lining. So this is a tutorial. I'm just going to use a regular China lining. I'm going to use a normal lining to do this, a plain lining. But if you're working with a regular dress, maybe it's not just for the purpose of tutorial, then you can use the same fabric as your lining, because it's going to show. Remember, it has like an overlap on it, so on that is going to show. But for me, I'm just going to use this regular lining. So I cut the lining the exact same shape as well, and then I'm going to place it. So the mesh, the crinoline mesh, is going to be on top like this, so that by the time I cover it, is going to be in between the lining and the main fabric. So what I'm doing now is pinning the three of them together, and once they are all pinned together, I'll take it to the sewing machine now and then run a stitch all around it. Okay, I hope you understand that. So I'll go ahead now and sew. Okay, I have gone ahead to sew it. So you just sew on the hem. You can see you can shorten the crinoline mesh that you have there, but I want the stitch to hold down my crinoline mesh for me. So if you want, you can first use your hemming gum to glue the mesh together first before you turn with lining. So I'm trying to notch the corners. Remember, it's like a flare, so I'm trying to place notches on it so that I can turn it out easily. So once it is notched like this, you're going to flip. So once it is flipped, your mesh is going to be in between your fabric and your lining, and then you take it to the ironing table and give it a really nice press. So once it is ironed, it's going to lay flat enough for us to cross it. It is ironed now, and you can see how flat it is looking. So you can just go ahead and hold this upper part with a stitch as well. Remember, it is 3 different fabric that you have there. So I have gone ahead to sew it down. The next thing now is to cross it. So to cross it, you just look for your notch. Remember that we made a notch here. Okay, that's at the midpoint. I'm trying to assemble it. Okay, so at that center point where we notched, these are my notches here. So what you just need to do is to match those 2 notches together like this. Once the notch is matched, you are going to sew into where it's crossed. Remember, it's crossed there and here. So you're going to use your stitch to hold them together like this. You can see, okay, you can see the overlap, you can see where it's crossing. So you're going to go ahead now and sew this down. I have sewn it together now, and you can see it is lapping. So the reason why I said you can use same fabric for lining is because this part where it's overlap is going to be showing a little bit. So the last thing to do, remember that we added extra here for extra puff. So here what I'm going to do now is to go ahead and pleat or gather it back to my actual sleeve measurement. So once I'm done gathering it, I'll take it to the sewing mesh, to the mannequin, so that we can see what it looks like. But basically, I'm just going to create like form of puff so that this part is going to stick out like this, and this is what I'm going to have. So you will notice that the hem of this is a bit, it's looking like it's a flare. It's flaring out a little bit. It's not so tiny. That's because of the slash and spread that we did, and I don't want too much. If you want to spread yours, you can spread it as much as you want, but I just want it a little bit bigger than what I have up here. So I'll go ahead and place this now and then take it to the mannequin so that we can see what it looks like. It is pleated now. You can see I just added a little bit of this, and you can see the puff. You can see the depth of the puff that I have here. So this is going to stand because remember, Ankara is a soft fabric. I have a crinoline mesh under it. So this now is my actual round armhole measurement. I'm going to serge it and then fix this to the body. So now let's go over to the mannequin to see what we have. So this is what the sleeve looks like. If you notice, you will see that we don't have any seam on the underarm area, and this is where the intersection is. You can see the fabric here. The pattern is different from what we have here. So if you want yours to be bigger than this, you can increase it with the measurement that we worked on, and see how lovely it is and how simple it is to make this sleeve. I hope you enjoyed making this beautiful sleeve with me. If you enjoyed it, let us know in the comment section. Like, comment and subscribe to our channel, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.